Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Nnamdi Adikpo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. Thank you for joining us on Insight this week.
Today on my part, I will be exploring two critical issues with impact on Nigeria's future. First, the highly anticipated completion of the AKK gas pipeline, a project which promises to transform the nation's energy landscape, bringing relief to industries in Nigeria and households alike. And then another pressing concern, the reoccurring tide of cholera in Nigeria. As the country grapples with this public health challenge, we would examine the efforts of healthcare workers, government agencies, and households to stem the tide. Elizabeth?
Of course, you know, saving lives is everybody's business, and we will be taking a look at actions accelerated by our health ministry to save more lives and then reducing the burden of maternal mortality and cancer burden. These can be achieved through safer bloods. So we will take a look at safer blood and saving lives.
Very well then, let's get started.
Whatever the issues are,
the National Assembly is constitutionally empowered to scrutinize,
however complex or intricate.
We have involved all the academia, the members of the academia. We have involved the academies.
Be it government policies or in fact any issue of public concern.
Our job is to help you gain clarity and make sense of it all.
This is not really healthy for our democracy.
There's a lot of aggrievance in terms of who has been in power longest and who becomes the governor of the state.
It's also in the quality of food being consumed.
After all, perception is insight.
And gaining understanding is also getting insight.
With an anticipated completion date that tentatively falls within the first quarter of 2025, the Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline, a 614-kilometer long natural gas pipeline being developed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, holds immense promises for Nigeria's gas master plan, covering domestic utilization and national sufficiency, as well as expanding the prospects for exports. We're talking about huge dividends here for Nigeria's natural gas subsector, both locally and internationally. Let me bring in my guest so we can get into all of that, the gains of this massive infrastructural project and what it means or could mean for the country's economic growth. Olabode Shoumi is a member of the African Business Roundtable, and he has consulted for the group since 2006. He also consults for the House Committee on Power and the Senate Committee on Gas. I'd like to welcome you so much to Insight. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nigeria, of course, has the world's 7th largest gas reserve, and that makes a lot of people, think that we are a gas nation. Actually, we are a gas nation, as it were, even though oil has been our major export for decades. But then, let's look at the AKK project and the fact that it is nearing the finish line based on the first quarter 2025 projection done by NNPC not too long ago. Is it therefore okay to say that we're fast leaving the realm of speculation, especially when you link the progress being done or being made, on the project to Nigerians' intention to shift from crude oil dependency towards a more diversified economy?
Okay, so when we talk about gas, it would be nice for us to maybe do a few steps back to look at how we got into where we are. For many decades, all over the world, gas was a poor cousin of oil. In fact, people used to be unhappy when they discovered gas. And over the years, more uses was found for gas. And one of the first projects for that was with the Nigerian NLNG, which was in the late 90s, where we had 30, 40-year contracts for our gas. So the gas was no longer being wasted, it was being supplied. Another project that came up in that line is the Escravos gas to liquid project, this EGTL, which basically transforms gas into liquids. In this case, you have diesel, you have naphtha. And so those were some of the purest diesels that were possible. And what now happened was that there was a bit of economic downturn with the low prices of oil, and that affected gas, which now means it affected the revenues that could come in from gas. But it was discovered that given our own market, given Nigeria as a situation, we actually have the capacity to actually consume our own gas, to do trade in within ourselves domestically. And so they came up with a plan for us to use gas, to utilize gas. And that's what is known as the Gas Master Plan. The Gas Master Plan anchored on 4 primary areas: gas to power, gas-based industries. So those are industries that use gas as raw materials. You're talking about fertilizer, you're talking about methanol, and the rest. You're talking about LPG, which is, of course, your cooking gas. And you have gas in industry. So in the industries that use gas to fuel their machines and the rest. So those were the 4 anchor points of that. But for you to get those things in within country, there was a need for infrastructure. And some critical infrastructure points were made, one of which is the OB3. The other is the AKK. The AKK, as it is being constructed, as it is being structured, is the backbone of gas infrastructure in Nigeria. More importantly, it is also the pipeline that will connect with the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline when it's eventually done. So it holds many things. Apart from it being an anchor point, or an anchor backbone structure, it is also positioned to enable industries all over. People need to remember that when ELPS, that's the Escravos Lagos pipeline,
yes,
when it was being constructed, there was only one off-taker, and that was Egmi Power. Right now, along that corridor, there's no more space. So what it means is that when you build infrastructure, you actually provoke, you actually push industries to come up. And there's evidences of that already. When the construction was being done, the governor of Kaduna then, El Rufai, set up a committee to come up with industrial parks, about 2 of them, and had a meeting with the project team such that there will be a connection from where the pipeline passes through Kaduna to those places. So we're already talking industries in terms of conception.
I like that you've raised the Escravos Lagos pipeline, and you've talked about what Kaduna as a state now is doing with regards to the AKK. I am sure that experts like yourself are visibly, euphoric, or let's say excited over the progress being made, towards gas utilization and sufficiency for Nigeria. And even now, as it has become a priority for the government. The AKK, of course, like you've said, you've referenced already, is a subset of the Trans-Nigeria pipeline project. You mentioned the Escravos to Lagos pipeline system. You talked about the OB3 gas pipeline. With all that has been happening so far, I wonder how and what states, whether directly impacted or not at the moment, by these new gas infrastructure, can begin to do on their own to key into the TNGP. First, to drive their energy sector and perhaps fast-track industrialization in their states. I know you've mentioned Lagos and Kaduna. That's why I'm just doubling down on this.
So in terms of energy, if we take a cue from Dangote, he basically built his own power plant. So, and what he has built for the refinery, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 megawatts, is close to what Lagos State itself is using, if not more. So the point is that once you have the pipeline based on gas to power and all that, which actually has a lower rate than all the other forms, you can actually build your own power plant and use the industries as off-takers. So the power plant can be constructed pari passu with whatever industries is being done. And this is where states can take initiative. It's not necessarily only the states that it passes through. It's also the states that are near to it.
Yes, neighboring states.
So you have Benue is close by. Yeah. You have Bauchi is somewhere there. You have Castina somewhere there. You have Jigawa. You have Niger. You understand? So we are talking about basically the whole country. So when we say it's the backbone that passes through the whole country, it is not a guesswork. It is actually a fact. So there is nothing that says another state, say even Taraba, cannot decide to construct a 100-kilometer pipeline close to those places, do it in collaboration with NNPC or NGMC, and set up a group of industries there. There are already industries that are peculiar
So
to every
earlier on
terrain.
when I said we were fast leaving the realm of speculations, that's where we're fast leaving that realm, right?
Yes, we are fast leaving that. So, but this is where we are not yet where the baby has been born.
True.
We are now where there's a need for initiatives. Because there is the perception by many people that everything must be settled before they come up with your own idea. It's not true. There's nowhere in the world, there's no industry, and there's not even in personal life where that takes place. When you graduate from the university, you first take an initiative in terms of where you want to work. You speak, it's not necessarily your course. You have some time of meditation, some time of thinking, you consult with people, and then you start to apply, and then you look for jobs. So the idea that government will just develop everybody's life is a myth. It is the lazy man's approach to blaming something. So there is a need for people to take initiatives. In this case, when I say people, I'm talking about governments, whether it be local government, whether it be state government, because really, the way the constitution has been set up, the new laws have been set up, nobody's without an excuse. So if the state government in whatever state, maybe Taraba, maybe Adamawa, is not moving forward, there's nothing that stops a local government from setting up an industrial park. Nothing that stops them from building their own power plant. Nothing that stops
like what
them
Kaduna
from
is actually doing somewhere
Yes.
around there with the industrial park.
Yes, and there are many other states. Oyo too has done something, and he has done it in direct negotiation with Shell, away from all the government plans. They are not even connected with AKK at all. They are building their own equivalent of AKK across the whole of the state. So it is all about initiatives. And there is enough in terms of potential for you to leverage upon. So it's not like you're going to be working on nothing. You're going to be working on some foundations, which is now going to be dependent on the responsibility of the people who are leading to take the initiatives. Then other people will follow.
Great. I'd like for us to just take a step back and again go to this issue of the gas to power initiative, which of course is an entire value chain. I mean, and that's on its own is a whole conversation, on its own. I am however intrigued at the prospect it holds for the sector, but not just as an alternative to fuel power plants. And I mean, government is already touting AKK as having the potential to improve power generation, as it were. But I am more interested about the dividends and what it holds for the end users, people like you and I.
Okay,
yes, do you envisage that the gas to power value chain could truly and ultimately benefit the end users, especially households and businesses, as a cheaper alternative at least?
I don't know whether it will be a cheaper alternative. It's an alternative, all right. Whether it will be a cheaper alternative will be an issue of the dynamics of economics. It's going to be an issue of the alternatives that are available. Because for now, the strongest competition anybody will have in terms of power generation is hydro. Okay. And primarily because you don't pay for the source material as it were. For gas to power, you need to pay for your gas, whichever way. I'm not sure anybody is going to charge you within that kind of limits for River Niger, the water coming from River Niger. So there are some things that are just fundamentals of economics. But for me, what holds the biggest opportunity for benefiting the man on the street is gas-based industries. Because you see, what UNIDO had done about 7-8 years ago, which was lying fallow, was that they came up with a concept of the fact that you can have a cottage industry based on gas in every of our local governments, 774 of them. In simple terms, so if we go to Potiskum or somewhere, and we find out that in that place, they have a lot of mangoes. And most of the mangoes, of course, as in the nature of those places, they go rotting and all that. Why don't we set up a mango processing plant there that is going to be fueled by gas? And on the strength of that, every mango that comes there is processed into fruit juice. Obviously, we will not be able to consume it, which means that we need to export it. So you can imagine some local government in faraway place, after all the structures have been put in place, they have some contract with a few people that need to use mangoes for some kind of raw material, and every month $50,000 is coming into that local government that is independent of oil, independent of federal government revenue. If you have, even if it is $10,000 coming into each local government every month, independent of oil, What you are talking about is a revolution. I mean, 10,000 times 774, you do the maths. And this is not connected with. What it means is that a lot of our people who are trying to kill themselves in the cities, who are sweating, who are living under subhuman conditions, can have reason to go home.
True.
They can have reason to contribute because there is now an economy within where they came from that can meet their needs. And development, being in the city is not the same thing as development. Development is actually setting basics. And you find that when you go to the Western nations. So you can have all the fundamentals that you need for a comfortable life in the rural area. And then people can live their normal lives. And we can talk about even development in Nigeria. So for me, gas-based industries is the key.
And I agree with you entirely with regards to the impact on gas industries and what it's likely to do on the end users. But let's quickly double down because I understand we've gone almost halfway with our time and our conversation. I'd like for us to just hurry along real quick. I know we're doing things already, stuff with compressed natural gas in Nigeria with what we're doing with vehicles. But I'd like for us to talk about the rising global demand for cleaner energy sources and how gas itself fails to completely meet the yearnings of environmental advocates who, of course, want lower carbon emissions. I wonder how Nigeria's gas master plan factors that issue amidst this intense global advocacy, or is it a case of delaying actions as far as we're smiling to the bank, or is it a case of having a fail-safe in the event of a global energy meltdown or something?
Okay, so there is...
You chuckled there.
I chuckled because there's an aspect of it that is economics,
okay,
and there's an aspect that is politics, the global geopolitics of energy. Renewable energy, sustainable energy, as we know it, is actually not new. It's more than 100 years old. There's no aspect of the energy source that we're talking about that is even relatively new, whether it be hydrogen, whether it be... Albert Einstein died in the 50s, but he did many great work, the atomic bomb, but he won the Nobel Prize for his work on the photoelectric effect. So photoelectric effect is the science of solar panels. That was what he won his Nobel Prize for, I think in 1920 or something. So the solar panel as we know it today is more than 100 years old. It's not novel, it's not new. So if it has not caught up at the rate with which we expect it to cut up in over 100 years, there are obviously some reasons behind it. So when we talk about the demand for sustainability, there is the science. The science is the fact that the way we currently use energy, we cannot continue to use it that way in the sense that we are going to damage the planet. But there is also the pressure to get, instead of us doing it in a more gradual way, there's the pressure to get it done with suddenly. And when you take a step back and look at the dynamics, you will find out that there are certain nations who are more on the edge of let's get this thing done tomorrow.
Okay.
And there are those who are not. Usually those who are more on the edge are those who lack some of these resources. And there is the thinking that it's kind of like an opportunity to ensure a leveler. Whether that is true or not is the nature of politics and conspiracy theories. But let's look at what is in the basics. The basics is that when we talk about energy neutrality, there's really very few things, if any, that is completely energy neutral. So because, for example, today we talk about the electric vehicle and all that. But the electric vehicle, when you look at in terms of the net carbon emissions that it brings, can be a lot more punitive to the environment than even oil. Because there are certain rare metals that goes into a battery. We're talking about lithium. We're talking about cobalt. Have you seen a lithium power plant, a lithium mining site before? It is more destructive to the environment than anything oil can do. You understand? And then there are certain things that are still connected with there are some part of the solar cells that are plastic. Plastic is 100% oil and gas. They are from petrochemicals. You understand? And then when you look at what oil does, it's not just about transportation, because we look at transportation and all that. It's a lot more than that. So there are over 10,000 products that currently exist today that are direct products of oil.
Sure.
From your jerseys, the women's hair, the cosmetics industry, even some pharmaceuticals, the coal tar on the road which we would drive,
Sure.
the roofing tars. So they're over. So all is
So
not just
there's
going
absolutely no writing of gas for
not
the
in
now.
not in this generation. Not, I mean, it can be in the next generation. Because you see, this part of it is that there can be alternatives, but those alternatives must be economically sustainable and commercially competitive.
True.
Nobody is going to take, no business person is going to take a product that is more expensive than what he's currently doing just to satisfy certain demands.
It doesn't
but
make
we,
economical
in our
sense.
own line, as Nigeria, we have done our best to meet it. That's why we came up with the decade of gas. The decade of gas is an answer saying that energy transition is real, but we have chosen gas, which is the cleanest form of all the fossil fuels, as our own method of meeting the needs of the energy transition. So basically, we are trying to align with the global records, I mean, the global demands and the global thinking, but we are trying to do it in our own way and in a way that is justifiable. Because in the first place,
Yes.
we are not even we didn't contribute 1% of the carbon emissions that was emitted all over the world. In fact, Africa contributed less than 5% of it.
I understand we're totally out of time now, but if it would be possible in just 60 seconds or maybe 90 seconds, if possible, there's a security component to this whole discourse, to the AKK project I wanted us to talk about. I'm sure you're aware that several lives have been lost in the course, of the AKK project arising from attacks at the project sites by criminals.
Yes.
We know these lines will flow about 2 billion standard cubic foot of gas daily, if I'm not mistaken. How do we avoid the mistakes of the past and even maybe the present with, of course, what we know is ongoing with oil pipelines in the country? How do we boost the security component of the gas master plan to circumvent what could easily become, another reign of gas pipeline vandalism in Nigeria?
So there are certain things that are cultural and social, and there are certain things that are legal. For example, you cannot legislate brotherhood.
True.
There's no law that can force people to be friends.
Again.
So when it comes to some of these basic security things, we need to inculcate it in our culture that these are national assets and these pipelines flow to the benefit of our interest. If we cannot convince ourselves, and we cannot convince our brothers and our people in the villages, and we cannot convince the man on the street, there's no law, there's no security agency that can do that. Because you can only have so many security agencies manning so many people.
Sure.
And they can only see so much at a time. It is we that need to start speaking in our subtone, in our subtext, and even overtly to ourselves and our brothers that let this pipeline be so that the nation can develop. If we cannot get that message to the grassroots, a lot of what we are going to be saying in terms of security will be highfalutin, they will sound nice, but they will achieve nothing.
This will be a good place to end our conversation. Ola Bode Showumi, member African Business Roundtable, consultant to the House Committee on Power, as well as the Senate Committee on Gas. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on our program. It's been quite insightful. Listening to you. Thank you so much indeed.
It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Now to our next conversation on the cholera outbreak in Nigeria. Let's appraise how best to roll back the tide, I beg your pardon. From vaccination campaigns to water sanitation initiatives, the strategies being deployed to combat the lingering cholera outbreak in parts of the country are in focus and are now being scrutinized. Latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control indicate that the disease has so far claimed 30 lives across 30 states. Well, the number of suspected cases are not definitive at this point, but we hear it's over 1,000 already. 65 of them confirmed, with 15 states said to be contributing mostly to the suspected projected figure of that's the suspected cases. My guest is Dr. Isaac Igboaja. Is that correct? Igboaja. Doc, did I get that correctly?
Yes, Isaac Igboaja.
Dr. Igboaja was with the UN for a considerable length of time. He is a public health specialist with specialty, I beg your pardon, in community health. Welcome to the program, Doc. Doc used to be a regular on Insight. We've not seen him for some time. It's good to have you back here.
My pleasure. It's good to be here.
Great. So, Doc, it's a fact that cholera occurs in Nigeria all year round. It's also a fact that it is closely linked with poor personal and environmental sanitation, also food hygiene and contaminated water. Does it therefore suffice to say that that cholera, or rather that the poor are most vulnerable and face the most risks when it comes to the issue of cholera in Nigeria? Do you have an idea of the national risk assessment, as it were, and does the trend give credence or lend credence to that analogy of cholera being a poor man's disease? Where do we truly stand?
Well, it is possible that poor people are more prone or are more at risk, but nobody is free of the disease. If you are the richest person and you are not keeping yourself clean and you don't observe personal hygiene or environmental hygiene and sanitation, you are also prone and at risk of cholera.
So what do we know of the incidence rates? I tried to get a definitive
Generally,
figure.
let me explain this. Generally, these kinds of diseases that have to do with behavior, that have to do with personal hygiene, that have to do with environmental hygiene and sanitation, poor people are more prone because they live in rural areas, they live in very unhygienic conditions, they eat just what they can find. Take food, for example. A rich man will not stop by the side of the road and buy mama put and eat. But a poor person would buy just anything that he can find that is called food, just to survive. You also notice that these days there are hawkers selling salads, selling pop-off, selling biscuits, selling fried fish, selling any kind of food that you can possibly think of all over the place. And those who buy them are the people who are poor, who are in working places, mechanic villages, buildings, construction sites, all kinds of places where you find low-income people. And usually these foods are also cheaper and therefore are more affordable by poor people. You know, that is the reason why we say that whatever you do, it doesn't matter whether you're a rich person or a poor person, but because the poor people are more particularly at risk, they should try to observe personal hygiene. Personal hygiene here we mean they wash their hands frequently. You don't have to go to the toilet before you wash your hands. And before you eat anything, wash your hands. After you eat something, wash your hands. Check what you eat. Make sure that if it is raw food, fruits, vegetables, whatever that is raw that you are going to eat, make sure that it is clean. Make sure that if it is washable, you wash it. When I say washable, if it is fruits, for example, carrots, bananas, all kinds of fruits that are available should be washed. But there are also things that poor people eat all the time, biscuits and pop-off and dry fish and so on and so forth. You may not be able to wash those. But what you can do is to make sure that they are clean. Make sure that if you need to boil them, you reboil them or heat them before you eat them.
Doc, you know, when you said poor people, you mentioned a couple of places where poor people buy foods and the kind of foods that they buy. Someone said something, my director actually said something in my ears. And they said, Dr. Abuja is referring to the bulk or majority of Nigerians. And I felt that's something to say, really, because if we were to go by the indices of poor persons or persons living below the poverty line, you would agree with me or with my director that you're talking about a greater majority of Nigerians there. And when you also referenced the issue of washing of hands and all of that, I also reckon there's a proper way to wash our hands. Otherwise, do you mean I just go to like the tap, take a scoop of water, wash or perhaps just rinse my hands and that's proper washing?
Okay, let me answer your first question. Yes, the greater proportion of Nigerians are at risk. In fact, it is only very few Nigerians that are really rich people, for example, that always drink bottled water. Always. Majority of Nigerians drink the water that they get, the water that they can find, including pure water. What you call pure water, there's nothing that guarantees that it is pure.
It is pure.
In fact, many of the pure water sachets, when tested, have bacteria in them. And those are the type of foods and water or consumables that most Nigerians take. As a matter of fact, more than 70 or 75% of Nigerians are at risk, are poor. It's not only 50%, it's more than that. But let me come to the second question that you asked, and that is about the environment, right?
The proper way to wash your hands.
The
when
proper
you
way,
referenced
yes. Okay, personal hygiene. Personal hygiene.
Personal hygiene.
Yes,
basically.
the proper way to wash hands actually is to turn on the tap, or if it is not the tap, if it is water that you are using to wash your hands, let somebody else hold the water for you, and you put your hands below the water, and you wash while they pour the water in your hands, so that whatever we are washing goes down. That is the proper way to wash hands. Sometimes people fetch a little bowl of water, put it beside them or in front of them, and just dip their hands inside and squeeze their fingers, run their fingers against each other, and consider that as hands being washed. No, that is not proper washing of hands. If, for example, my hands are contaminated with this bacteria, Vibrio cholerae, that causes cholera, and I just take a bowl of water, little bowl of water, and I put my hands inside and just wash, just rub my fingers against each other, and I take it out and start eating. I'm not clean. My hands are not clean. That's not hygienic. Why? Because if there was bacteria in my hand and I dip it into the water and I rub my fingers, I'm only circulating the bacteria inside the water. And when I take my hands in from that water, I'm taking it with the bacteria still. And if I use it to eat, I'm still contaminated. Or the possibility of the food or myself being contaminated directly is still high. So that's not washing of hands, good washing of hands. Good washing of hands, if it is a tap, you turn on the tap, put your hands below it, take soap and rub your hands against each other, and make sure that the water that comes from the process of washing goes down below you and is discarded.
And where you don't have running water, you could also get someone to help you with the scoop and then pour the water on.
Exactly.
Well,
you put your hands and let the water be above your hand,
yes,
and they pour it and you wash. If you don't have soap, good washing of hands should be with soap. But if you don't have soap, you can use ash. I'm talking of extreme conditions.
Okay.
In the rural areas, there are many times when people don't have soap.
Yes.
In rural areas, and I'm being practical. I'm not making this
Why
as a
is
conventional
ash
advice.
better or more effective than even sand? I see in some places in rural areas, you see people put their hands on the floor, and then use the sand from the floor to also wash. They think that's also effective.
No, that's not effective, because that's even the habitation, the medium of the transmission. That's where bacteria stay. Ash is good for washing hands in rural areas and in extreme conditions where you don't have soap. And you can use that to rub your hands and then you wash.
Great.
And make sure that whatever you are doing, the water that you use to wash goes down and you don't contaminate yourself back with the same water. That's very key. That's very important. But let me emphasize here.
Yes, please, go ahead.
In Nigeria, there are many people that use the toilet and use water to clean themselves. They don't use toilet paper. They use water. This is where we have serious problem, very serious problem. Because if you use water to clean yourself, one, you must not use both hands at the same time. If you must have to clean yourself with this process or with this method, use your left hand to clean yourself and use your right hand as the clean one to fetch the water that you need. And when you do, make sure that that left hand is properly cleaned. I mean properly washed. Make sure too that you cut your fingernails to the level that there is nothing where, or there's no space where anything can hide between the nail and your skin. Cut them very well, and make sure that your hands are generally clean. I'm saying this because this is a situation where we must have to deal with, not because it is good, not because I recommend it, but because there is no option. There are still a good number of Nigerians who use water to clean themselves when they use the toilet.
And I like that you're very realistic.
And this is where the problem really lies. True. Ordinarily, you should never use your hands to touch your anus. No, your hands must never come in contact with the feces that when you defecate. Defecation should be straight to the hole, straight to the toilet, and when it is flushed, it is gone. You must not touch it. But since it is a practice that people do this, I'm saying this so that we can make the best out of a bad situation. And also, there are babies, when they defecate, their mothers have to wash them. And mothers use their hands to wash the anus of the babies. If you do this, make sure that after that, you have running water, either a tap or somebody else holds water above your hands, and make sure that you wash your hands properly with soap and clean water. I mentioned use of ash a little while ago. Another thing that you can also use to wash your hands is salt. You can take some salt and rub it against your hands very well, very, very well, and then pour water. Or you can put plenty of salt in water and use that water to wash your hands. These are situations that are possible when you are practically deprived of the norm, of the regular means, or the conventional means of washing your hands or keeping your hands clean. Let me emphasize over and over again, we need this personal hygiene. Some people don't wash their clothes. Some people wear the same clothes over and over every day. You must make sure that you wash your clothes, especially when you sweat. You must not wear clothes, sweat in them, hang them, and then rewear them unwashed. And this is also a time for the big people that you talked about to keep good watch and supervise the house helps, the house cooks, the housemaids that they have in their houses. Many of these people that cook for us are sometimes not clean themselves. They don't wash their hands. They don't keep themselves clean enough. And we should check this so that we make sure that they don't contaminate the water and the food that we eat. What good does it do for you if you keep yourself clean, you wash your hands, you drink clean water, but the person who cooks for you cooks with dirty hands and contaminates the food before it's given to you to eat?
Doc,
when you eat that food, you are at risk as much as anybody else.
Yes, I appreciate all you've said in terms of mitigating preventive measures. And I mean, these are things, realistic issues, things that are obtainable in our society. And I like that you've raised them and the approach you've also used in advising, Nigerians generally to take precautions or, measures to take in order to help stem the current tide of cholera in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Dr. Isaac Eboaja, the public health specialist. He was also with the UN for a considerable length of time. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the program to talk about this very important issue.
My pleasure.
Elizabeth Omori is up next.
Donating blood is a simple process that can make a profound difference. A donation can help patients undergoing surgery, battling illness, or involved in an accident. This act will not only save lives, but ensure a steady supply of this critical resource. Nearly 120 million units of blood are donated every year. However, this is not sufficient to meet the global need of many patients requiring transfusion. The World Health Organization says blood cannot be stored indefinitely, meaning there is a constant need for donations. Regular donations are required to ensure there is always a supply for those in need. Today, we will be talking about this all-important resource. And my guest, Dr. Ijoma Leonardi, Assistant Director, Head Operations, National Blood Services Commission, will deal with our focus. Dr. Nadi, thank you so much for joining us on Insights.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin with the donation of blood. Is this a civic responsibility? Let's hear from you, a practitioner.
Yeah, donation of blood is meant to be a civic responsibility because we need to have regular unpaid blood donors so as to meet the demand of blood supply in the country. Because right now, so many people are not donating blood. We have less than 1% of Nigerians that are regular unpaid blood donors. Because of so many fear and mites around blood donations, people don't like donating blood, believing that maybe if they donate, they might react. Some of them feel that if they donate, they might die in the process out of complications. And there's another myth about women not donating. So women believe that they will not donate, they are not supposed to donate blood. But in the real sense of the word, they are supposed to donate blood. Every individual, any human, both males and females, we should be donating blood.
We should be donating blood. Okay, let's talk about the safety of blood this time around. So what blood type should be transfused or can be transfused?
All the blood types. Okay. Blood type A, B, AB, and O should be transfused. In fact, in the National Blood Service Commission, we have a book called Appropriate Clinical Use of Blood, whereby we have stated that blood type A should give to A, and blood type B to B, AB to AB, and O to O, except in a situation where we don't see AB blood group. That is, if they are not available, or any other blood group apart from O, we can use O positive or negative blood group to transfuse.
Okay, so at what point does the genotype play an important role in blood transfusion? Does this matter? For example, SS.
Okay, for SS, we prefer using blood product from an AA, so that the effect of the sickle part of the blood cell of the SS patient will not aggravate whatever condition that the SS patient has. So preferably in the hospitals, we encourage using AA genotype. Okay. Sorry, blood products, the units of blood products from an individual who is AA genotype. We can use them. We always encourage them, their use for the transfusion of SS individuals, that is sickle cell disease individuals in crisis.
Okay. Now, assessing blood when there is a need is a very crucial matter. Not having access at the right time promotes maternal mortality, and many cancer patients suffer. What can be done in this regard?
Yeah, what can be done is to always promote voluntary non-remunerated blood donations, taking the message about the importance of blood donations and also the health benefits associated with being a blood donor, a regular blood donor, so that individuals, the public, general public, will be equipped with the knowledge of what blood services and blood transfusions and the need to donate blood in bulk and whenever it's needed, especially during emergencies. But we prefer having blood units on ground in our blood banks, waiting for any eventuality that will come, so that in the cases of trauma and women in labor needing blood, sickle cell disease patients needing blood, we will not have to run helter-skelter looking for people that will come and donate blood in such emergencies. So we take the media campaign, like I am today, taking the media campaign to various places, in radio stations, television stations, even print media. We also do advocacy visits to various communities in the villages, meeting the village leaders, community leaders, in the markets, various institutions of higher learning, taking the message to them, because it's only human beings that can donate blood to fellow human beings to save their lives. So promoting voluntary, non-remunerated blood donations is the key.
It's key. Okay, now let me draw your attention to a very important aspect of blood donation, and it has to do with religion. Some persons do not believe in donating.
Well, religious beliefs sometimes are difficult to handle. Like some, even in Christendom, there are some denominations that will never ever want to take blood. Even at the point of death, they will choose to die because of their belief. In such cases, especially in the hospitals, we advise them that as in the need for them to receive that blood so as to live. But you will not force somebody against his or her own wish, because even sometimes when you want to transfuse, you have to gain the consent of the person will have to give you consent. And in emergency cases, except in emergency, when you don't know the person's religious belief, whether the person is a Muslim, Christian, if you're not aware, in accident cases that the person is brought into the emergency unit, and you need to donate or transfuse the person with blood or blood products so as to save the person's life, you will do it. You will go out your own way to do it, especially when you are not aware. Like a patient that is unconscious, brought into emergency units.
What if you are, the patient is aware? What do you do at that time? Because you have a right, you have taken an oath to save that life as a doctor.
If the person comes or is rushed into the emergency unit and the person is awake, having told the person that you need to receive blood for you to survive or for you to live, and the person tells you that I will not want to due to my belief, you will not force the person. You will try as much as possible to ensure or assure the person or encourage the person to take the blood. But if the person refuses to take, there's nothing you can do about it, because if you do, even without the person's consent, the person can sue you.
Wow, that is a very tough call. So does that mean the act of donating blood should be everybody's business? Like we talk about security. And I'm asking this because some persons will never dare to go near donation of blood. But some persons have taken it as a civic responsibility. Like for example, we've had persons that have donated like 50 times, 69, 20, 18 times, like that. So how do we strengthen advocacy for people to embrace the act of donating blood? It might not really save their own life, but it could save the life of somebody very close to them.
Yes, donating blood regularly should be everybody's business, even though that it shouldn't be under compulsion. That's why we say that it should be voluntary. It should be willingly. The person will have to present himself or herself to donate blood so as to save lives. And I want to mention here that when you're donating blood regularly, you're saving lives as well as saving yourself, because there are so many benefits attached to being a regular blood donor. For instance, if you're a regular blood donor, you will have a reduced risk of having heart attack, sudden heart attack, or stroke. And even you will also have the benefits of the cholesterol in your body reducing. So some of even blood-related cancers, it reduces the chances of you having blood-related cancers. There are so many benefits attached to it. So we always encourage individuals to donate, because when you're donating, you're saving your own lives. How you ask some questions, how we'll go about is trying to let people know, from massive creation of awareness, media campaign, taking it to everywhere. And even the government is doing their best, because most times we as government agency, we take it to so many places. We go to various communities, far and near. We go to some establishments, that is job places, workplaces. We take them to institutions of higher learning, the message about it. We also have the junior ones, secondary school blood safety program, whereby we intend to catch them young, so that when they grow up, they will know the need. When they attain the age whereby they will start donating, that is 18 years of age, when they must have graduated, they will start donating blood, and as well as take it to their institutions of higher learning and try to mobilize their peers, creating more awareness about the importance of blood donation.
Okay. What should stability be like health-wise donating?
You have to be within the age range to donate, that is 18 years to 65 years of age. Okay. And you must be in a state of health, a good state of health. A sick person will not donate. If you're a woman and you present yourself that you want to donate and you're pregnant, you will not donate. And if you're a woman that is menstruating, currently menstruating, or you just finished with your menses less than 2 weeks, we will not allow you to donate, because you need time for you to recover from the blood loss. And if you're a woman and you are nursing a baby, you will not donate. You will not donate until you stop nursing your baby. Again, for weight, body weight, you have to have 50 kg body weight and above. You must not have any form of piercings or tattoo on your body that is less than 6 months. Those are the criteria. And when your blood level is checked, that is the hemoglobin level, you shouldn't be less than 12.5 grams per dm for everybody. If somebody gets tattoo that is less than 6 months, you don't know how careful they were while giving the person the tattoo. So anything sharp or piercings, tattoo, can increase the chances of the person being infected with blood-borne diseases. And we don't want the person to donate blood that is infected or has the higher chances of having all those blood-borne diseases. I mean HIV 1 and 2, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and also syphilis. So we are collecting blood. We are advocates for regular blood donations. And even at that, we want any unit of blood being collected to be safe and of high quality, so that the person, the end user that will receive it through transfusion, will not be infected with blood-borne diseases.
Dr. Ijoma Leonardi, Assistant Director, Head Operations, National Blood Services Commission, we want to thank you for joining us on Insight District. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on this episode of the program. To join us same time next week for more on Insight. My name is Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. We'll see you next week.